Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. But I want to, in the interest of time, move on to you, Mike. And you wrote a great piece this week under our analysis tab on what reviews of Walmart, consumer reviews of Walmart, are reflecting about supply chain issues that they're having, and the larger subject of how to use reviews as a business, sort of in your strategic thinking and process improvement.
So it was an interesting case study for me because I had access to Gather Up, and I've loaded in 101 Walmarts from around the country to get a good sample. And I looked at 185,000 reviews for the last 10 months. And I had, because they come into my feed every day, I had noticed comments about shortages and empty shelves. And I'd also seen that Walmart had owned up to this in their last two quarterly meetings where they had noted. So I thought it was a good opportunity to test the validity of my theory that these reviews in quantity over time can provide business insights. And so what we saw was a very close, like November, December, and January of last year, review sentiment around the topic of stock was very positive, and there were very few of them. And as these conditions worsened, the complaints went up and the ratings went down. You could see when Walmart started to fix them, the reviews got a little better, but then they sort of plateaued and started dropping off again. So, and this is confirmed by Walmart corporate in their quarterly meetings. So I think it elevates, in my mind, the possibility of using reviews not just for sentiment, not just for quality and customer relations, but as a business insights tool that provides great insight. And I've been tracking a number of other elements amongst major retailers, and I'm going to go back and look at them. I'm even tracking like 30 or 40 businesses in a region, and I want to see if reviews might track with economic upticks or downticks. So it's interesting, the last 10 months or 20 months rather, of we were in the upstream and then a downstream and then an upstream. And can reviews be used to predict volume, for example? I think they might be with the right set of data, but I'm not sure. So I just think it opens up all kinds of possibilities for analysts, competitors, businesses to gain additional insights that they hadn't really thought about from their business.
Well, let me ask you, Mike, because I mean, this is something that I've had conversations with different people for a long time about the insights that you can gain from reviews. But my sense is that most businesses don't use reviews in that way. They're approaching reviews in a purely utilitarian way. We need to do them for ranking. We need to respond to them because consumers have an expectation that they're going to read them and they want to see what the response is. But they're not really seeing them as an asset, such as you're describing. Is that a fair sense of where the market is, or is that, am I wrong?
I think the better companies, the top 20%, are using it as I'm describing, but also from a customer feedback point of view. When you ask for first-party reviews, you typically get 4 or 5x the volume you get of Google reviews. So you get a much bigger data set. So even smaller companies than Walmart can get great data sets when they do first-party. And those that are doing that assertively, consistently, Clean Juice comes to mind, who are able to extract meaningful data. They were able to fix COVID-related hygiene issues in some of their stores by looking at reviews, and that's powerful. But you're right; the bulk of them are very tactical in approach, and it's, to me, it's just such a small part of the story that it's a tragedy. But I think.
Well, why do you think that is? I mean, why? This has been written about, and people like you and others are out there sort of advising companies that they need to think differently about reviews. Why do you think it's so hard for companies to sort of come around to this perspective? Is it just an internal kind of inertia thing, or what
I think in some businesses they're too big, right? The Targets of the world don't have time to even bother with this. The little guys are so tactically focused. And also, I think a lot of the advice they get from agencies is very tactically focused. So I think throughout the ecosystem, there's some limit, some way that prevents them. And ranking kind of always drives thinking. It's kind of like link building. You got to get more links, because links help rank. I mean, it kind of puts the cart before the horse. It reframes the problem in a way that doesn't make sense to me. and in which everybody suffers if you're just getting more reviews and you're not really leveraging them. But it's part and parcel of the SEO industry, I think, is part of the problem as well.
Well, I have a theory on the too big notion, Mike. I agree that there are some companies that are, too big for this, for them to be able to truly engage with reviews as a business intelligence marker. I also think that they're too siloed. So frequently you have the customer experience team or whatever that's using some super bloated, 15-page Qualtrics survey to assess, consumer sentiment around their business and around, slider bars for every, possible metric that they're looking to track internally. And those just suck as a consumer. I mean, I actually filled a couple out this past week. I'm just like, guys, what I really want to do is just send you an email. This is a company that I actually really like. And I had a couple of problems with, and I was like, I really just want to send you an email saying this is where you need to fix, and this is what you need to fix.
For those of you who are listening, I'm shaking my head in total agreement here. Those forms just suck.
There's this very like, it's like, oh, this must have been taught at, the Harvard MBA school 30 years ago that this is the way to do it. And there's a lack of adjustment to the modern world of like, no, consumers want to be able to, I think very much go the Apple reviews route of like thumbs up, thumbs down on, 10 criteria and then write whatever they want to write. And so I think that that number one, it's a problem of the sort of the mindset of how to collect this data and the lack of realization that customers are already leaving you this data, that's in a completely different silo. And so I think that on the too big side of things, I think those are my theories on where the failure happens.
Yeah.
Well, for sure, big organizations are siloed and using different tools. That's absolutely the case. On any of those kind of Qualtrics surveys that you get, it's like when I get to question 6 or 7, I pretty much abandon because many of them are just too long.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.